Welcome to Ayurveda and Spirituality with your host, Alakananda Ma, a renowned Ayurvedic expert and a graduate of a top London medical school. She is the principal of Alundi Ayurveda Gurukula, a unique apprenticeship-style school in Boulder, Colorado. She is a spiritual mother, teacher, flower essence maker, and storyteller. Join us as we uncover the timeless principles of Ayurveda, discover practical tips for enhancing vitality, and explore the deeper dimensions of spirituality that intertwine with the ancient science of life.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Satsang. Satsang is a meeting of hearts, a gathering of friends to inquire into the truth. Today we are looking at chapter 2 of Bhrihadaranyaka Upanishad, the first Brahmana, or the first part, depending what your version is. So in order to do this, which is the story of an interaction between a king and an eminent Brahmin, we're going to begin with a little refresher about the caste system. What are the four castes as laid out in Varnashram Dharma, or as laid out in the Vedic system? The highest caste, which, if you recall, arises from the head of the Supreme Person, is the Brahmin caste. They are the highest caste, although they are not wealthy people. They actually are supposed to get their food by going to the market at the end of the day and begging for the leftovers that didn't get sold. They're supposed to live very simply. They are the highest caste because they are the knowers of the Vedas and the guardians of knowledge, not because of wealth. The second caste, which, if you recall, arises from the arms of the Supreme Person, is the kshatriya caste, and that includes all the kings, the warriors, would be today's politicians and military, and so on. The third caste, arising from the belly of the Supreme Person, is the Vaishya caste. That's your farmers and small farmers. They just own their own a plot of land, enough to feed themselves and have some surplus to sell, and your artisans and your merchants, the people that do all the import-export business, sending off the ships and so on. And finally, arising from the feet and legs of the Supreme Person are the Shudras, the caste of the working people. So, because of that way that the caste system goes, it is only considered to be the role of the Brahmin to deliver the spiritual teachings. And even though the kshatriyas have far more wealth and power, still they are in a secondary position to the Brahmins. However, here is this story. We're going to set a context for what we're studying today from Bhrihadaranyaka Upanishad with a little story about Shukadev, the son of Vedavyas, being sent to study with Videha, King Janaka. So Shukadev is definitely a Brahmin. In fact, he has mastered the knowledge of all of the Vedas. He is an impeccable sannyasi, known for his incredibly pure brahmacharya, his deep knowledge, and so on. And yet he's quite young. And after he's studied all the Vedas and everything, he kind of realizes, I've learned all the Vedas, but I don't know the true nature of everything. So he asks his father, Vedavyas, what should I do? Will you teach me? Vedavyas says, no. You should go to Videha. You should go to King Janaka. He is your guru and he will teach you everything. That's a bit odd, thinks Shukadev. But off he sets to visit King Janaka. And when he gets to the king, to the palace, and after some time he's let in. He's rather appalled because there is King Janaka sitting on a jeweled throne. There are all kinds of maidens around him, offering sweetmeats and bathing his feet and tending to him. And he's wearing silk robes, and he's living in every kind of luxury, as befits a king. And Shukadev thinks, well, this is very weird. Why did my respected father send me to study with a person like this? So he's sitting, he's thinking, he's kind of proud of everything. He's already been assigned a room in the palace for him to stay in, with a much more comfortable bed than he's used to. And in his room, he has placed his one prized possession, his kaupin. He received from his guru at his sannyas initiation this kaupin, this loincloth, dyed ochre. There's one to wear and one to wash. He received them from his guru, so that one prized possession, that kaupin, is in his room. So he's sitting there. What is going on? A messenger rushes in and says, "O king, O king, the cantonment, the military barracks is on fire." King's like, okay, carries on doing what he's doing, dispensing justice, hearing people's petitions. That's odd, thinks Shukadev. Why isn't he taking any notice of that? Another messenger rushes in. O king, the city is on fire. Okay. Janaka just carries on doing what he's here to do. He's got a lot of petitioners to hear, a lot of cases to sort out. He's just doing his job, and the maiden's attending to him. And a third messenger rushes in and says, O king, the palace is on fire." Oh my God, thinks Shukadev, my kaupin. And he starts to jump up, ready to go run to his room and save his kaupin. And Janaka is like, "Where are you going?" "My kaupin, my loincloth that I got from my guru on my initiation is in my room, and I need to save it." "Sit down." I am facing the loss of my citadel, my city, and my palace, and you are worried about a loincloth? And then Shukadev gets it, that although Janaka is a king, he is a knower of Brahman, and he comes and he bows before him, and he says, "Will you please teach me?" And Janaka says, "You have to pass one test first. You must take a bowl brimful of oil, go all around the city. When you come back, tell me what you saw. You must not spill one drop of the oil, and a man will walk behind you with a sword to kill you if you spill one drop of the oil." After some time, very, very carefully, the young sannyasi goes around the city, and he comes back, and he's still alive, but he hasn't spilled a single drop of the oil. And Janaka says, "So what did you see of the city?" "I saw nothing because I was concentrating on the oil." "Ah, exactly. And in the same way, although you see me here in the palace with the maidens and the sweetmeats and the petitioners and so on, my mind is always fixed on Brahman." So that is the story of Shukadev and how he had to become humble and learn from someone of a lower caste, a kshatriya. And that leads into this story, which comes in the second chapter of Bhrihadaranyaka Upanishad in the first Brahmana. So long ago, there is Proud Bālāki, and he is of the Gargya clan. So because he's descended from this very important person, Gargi, we're going to hear him called as Gargya. And he is a person who has a great knowledge of Brahman. He's an expositor. His job is to explain spirituality to people. And so he comes to King Ajātaśatru, who's the king of Kashi, today's Varanasi or Benares. And he says, I'm going to tell you about Brahman. Ajātaśatru thinks this is cool because everyone's going on and on about that Janaka over there in Ayodhya and how he's a great knower of Brahman. Maybe I could be a great knower of Brahman too. I'll give you 1,000 cows if you'll teach me Brahman. Gargya says, the person yonder in the sun, meditate on him as Brahman. Oh, Lord, said Ajātaśatru, look, you don't need to talk to me about the sun. Here's how I meditate on the sun, not on the sun itself. I meditate on that which the sun speaks to us of, the all-surpassing, the head and king of all beings. If I meditate in this way, I become, then one who meditates like that becomes all-surpassing, the head and king of all beings. Gargya is getting a little outsmarted here. He says, well, the person who's yonder in the moon, I meditate on him as Brahman. Ajātaśatru says, yeah, but I meditate on him as the great white-robed King Soma. I've gone beyond just the idea of meditating on the moon to the essence of it. He who meditates on him as such, for him the Soma, the nectar, is poured out and poured forth, and he'll never run short of food. Gargya is getting a little outsmarted still here. Next, he says, all right, so the person in the lightning, on him I meditate as Brahman. Oh, Lord, this learned Brahman doesn't really know very much, does he? Ajātaśatru says, you don't need to talk to me about the lightning person. We have to go beyond the lightning to the essence of what the lightning means. I meditate on him as the radiant. He who meditates on him as the radiant becomes radiant, and his offspring will also become radiant. This conversation is not going so well for Gargya. So he says, Ya evam akashe purusha, the person who's here in the space, on him do I meditate as Brahman. Ajātaśatru says, don't tell me about him. I've already been meditating on him, space, the full and the unmoving. He, again, going beyond just the subject. He who meditates on him as such is filled with offspring and cattle, and his offspring won't leave the world. Gargya says, Ya evayam vayu purusha. Gargya says, the person who's here in Vayu, in the air, I meditate on him as Brahman. So we're going through the elements now. Says Ajātaśatru. Why are you going on about him? Of course I meditate on him, but I go beyond him. I meditate on him as the Lord, the irresistible, the unvanquished army. He who meditates on him like that will become victorious, unconquerable, and a conqueror of enemies. What more could a kshatriya want? Next element, Gargya says, Evayam Agnau Purusha, the person who's here in Agni and fire. I meditate on him as Brahman. Lord, says Ajātaśatru, don't tell me about him. Again, we have to go beyond to a higher level. I meditate on him as the forbearing. He who meditates on him as such becomes forbearing, and his offspring also become forbearing. So Hovata Gargya ya evayam hapsu purusha. I meditate on this person who is here in the water, I meditate on him as Brahman. Ajātaśatru says, why are you going on about him? Of course I meditate on him as the likeness. He who meditates on him as such, to him comes what is like him and not what is unlike him. And from him is born what is like him. Gargya says, Ya evayam adarshe purusha, the person who's here in the mirror, on him indeed do I meditate as Brahman. So they were doing mirror meditation at that time. Ajātaśatru says, please don't talk to me about him. I do meditate on him, but I go to another level. I meditate on him as the shining one. He who meditates on him as such becomes shining indeed. His offspring also become shining. He outshines all those with whom he comes in contact. Gargya says, the sound which follows one as he walks, the sound of our own footsteps. Have you ever, I was telling you the story the other day of when I used to run off in Wales early morning and go into the National Trust Forest on my own. And when you start getting scared in the big forest, you start getting scared of your own footsteps. Somebody's following me. I can hear the footsteps. I hear the snap of the twig as you snap the twig. The sound here which follows one as he walks, on that indeed do I meditate as Brahman. Ajātaśatru says, please don't talk to me about that. Sure, I meditate on him as life. He who meditates on him as life will get a full term of life in this world, and breath will not depart from him before the completion of his time. He'll get Ayush. Gargya says, the person who is here in all the quarters of heaven, Dikshu Purusha, the person of the directions, I meditate on him as Brahman. Sigh. Ajātaśatru, don't talk to me about him. How do I meditate on the person of the directions? The second who never leaves us. He who meditates on him as such becomes possessed of a second. His company is not cut off from him. His friends don't desert him, and he's never lonely. Gargya says, Ya evayam chaya maya purusha, the person here who is the shadow. On him indeed do I meditate as Brahman. Ajātaśatru says, please don't talk to me about him. Of course I meditate on him as death. He who meditates on him as such will have a full term of life in this world. Death won't come to him before the completion of his time. Gargya says, Ya evayam atmani purusha etam evaham brahmopasa iti. Gargya says, the person here who is in the self, on him indeed do I meditate as Brahman. Ajātaśatru says, please don't talk to me about him. I meditate on him as self-possessed. He who meditates on him as such becomes self-possessed, and his offspring becomes self-possessed. Poor Gargya. He has said everything he knows, and he falls silent. Ajātaśatru says, that it? That's it, says Gargya. Ajātaśatru says, well, if that's all you know, you don't know much. Immediately, because he truly is a great person, immediately Gargya falls into intense humility because he has told everything he knows. And at every point, this mere kshatriya, this great king of Kashi, has said, I already do that, but I do it on this whole other level. He says, let me come to you as a pupil. Sahovacha Gargaya Upa Tvayaniti. Ah, Ajātaśatru says, verily, it's contrary to the usual practice for a Brahman to approach a kshatriya thinking he will teach me Brahman. However, I shall make you know him clearly. So he takes him by the hand, gets up off his seat, and they come together. They're walking around Kashi and they're walking along the ghats where it's early morning and people are still asleep. So they come and stand in front of a person who's asleep and they say to him, great, white-robed, radiant Soma. Nothing happens. The man is fast asleep. He doesn't hear a single word. Then Ajātaśatru comes to him and he gently taps him until he wakes up. And then so this is his very simple teaching. When the person who consists of intelligence falls asleep like that, where was it? And from where did it come back? He was so fast asleep, he couldn't hear us say, great white-robed radiant Soma. But then when I tap him, I rub his forehead, he wakes up. So where was he when he was asleep? And where did he come from when he woke up? And Gargya says, I don't know. Wow. Ajātaśatru says, when this being fell asleep, then the person who consists of intelligence, having, by his intelligence, taken to himself the intelligence of the breath, he rests in the space within the heart. Ya esontra hridaya akasha tasmin chete. Hridaya akash, the space in the heart, which is one of these super important teachings of the Upanishads, the teaching of the space within the heart. When the person draws all his senses in, he's said to be asleep. When the breath is restrained, speech is restrained, the eye is restrained, the ear is restrained, the mind is restrained. So a person consists of intelligence. By his intelligence, he takes the intelligence of all the sense organs, all the pranas, and he rests in the space within the heart, in the Hridayakash. And when he rests there, he is said to be asleep. When the breath is restrained, speech is restrained, the eye is restrained, the ear is restrained, the mind is restrained. So what's happening while he's asleep? He's moving about in a dream, in these whole other worlds. He could become a great king like me. He could become a great Brahmana like you. He enters into all kinds of states, high and low. There's that story that's told, I think it's in Mahabharata, but don't take my word for it because I didn't fact check myself, where there's this whole entire life that's lived in a dream. This person falls asleep, has a dream, has his entire life. Well, he has a wife, he has a family, he has children, all these things happen. Then he wakes up and that whole life is gone. So in a dream, anyone could be a great king like Janaka or Ajātaśatru. Anyone could be a great Brahmana like Gargya. Even as a great king, taking his people, moves about in his country as he pleases. So a great king with his retinue, moving about his country. So also this one, like this man that was asleep, taking his breath, his prana, which correspond with the senses, moves about in his own body as he pleases. So this is talking about the dream state. This, then we're going to talk about the deep sleep state. Again, when one falls into deep sleep, when he knows nothing whatsoever, having come through the 72,000 channels called hita, which extend from the heart to the pericardium, he rests in the pericardium. I'm just trying to see what word they are using, which they're translating as pericardium. He rests in the pericardium verily as a youth or a great king or a great Brahmana might rest. Vatignim anandasya gatva shaita, when he has reached the summit of bliss, so does he rest. The commentary on this, there are 72,000 nadis around the heart. There are 5 colors, uniting with the rays of the sun, which are similarly colored. The sun and the heart are connected with each other. In deep sleep, the soul glides into these nadis, and through them it becomes one with the heart. At death, the soul is said to pass out by these nadis and the rays of the sun. They are open to the wise, though closed to the ignorance. And the final verse of this segment, as a spider moves along the thread, as small sparks come forth from fire, even so, from this self come forth all breath, all words, all divinities, all beings. Evam evasmad atmana sarve pranaha, sarve lokaha, sarve devaha, sarvani bhutani vyucharanti. All breaths, all worlds, all divinities, all beings. Its secret meaning is the truth of truth. Satyasya satyam iti prana. By satyam, tesham, esha satyam. Its secret meaning is this satyasya satyam, the truth of truth, the reality of reality, the ultimate truth. The prana, the vital breaths, are the truth, and their truth is it, that, the self. So as a spider moves along the thread, as small sparks come forth from the fire, even so from this self come forth all breaths, all worlds, all divinities, all beings. Its secret meaning is satyasya satyam iti. Iti pranavai satyam, the vital breaths of the truth. Tesham esha satyam, their truth is it, is the self. The world is not to be repudiated as false. It is true, but it is true derivatively, because it is sustained by ultimate truth. That note is very nice. That's what our late great friend Acharya Sarah at Krista Prema Seva Ashram wrote her whole PhD thesis on the concept of relation in Shankara. In Shankara, there's not just the real and the unreal, Sat and Asat. There is this relative reality, which we see also in Buddhism, especially in Madhyamaka. There is this relative reality which is not unreal because it is the sparkles of the fire. It is the shining thread of the spider. It's not unreal, it's relatively real. As the spider moves along the thread, as small sparks come forth from the fire, even so from this self come forth all breaths, all worlds, all divinities, all beings. Its secret meaning is the truth of truth, vital breaths of the truth, and the truth is it. So there's very much in this story. It's an interesting story of, first of all, of the Brahman thinking he knows it all and will teach the King of Kashi. And the King of Kashi is pretty excited because he's not as famous for his spiritual knowledge as that Janaka over there in Ayodhya. So he thinks this is going to be cool. I've been meditating my whole life. I'm going to get the real deal now from a Brahmin who's lowering himself to teach me. But no, because the knowledge that Gargya has is all scholarly knowledge. It's not applied knowledge. And the king here doesn't have as much time to spend studying all the books. He has to keep the whole kingdom going. So he just has to cut through to the essence, to the essential teachings. And we're talking about a period of time when awakening does shift into the hands of the kshatriyas. Buddha being a prince, being born in a kshatriya family. Krishna also being a kshatriya. Arjuna also being a kshatriya. We're going to start to see these intensely practical and profound teachings coming forth from this new place, because in the hands of the Brahmins, the knowers of the Vedas, it has become ossified. It has become solidified. It needs a reformation. It needs a makeover, and that comes from these kings and princes like Buddha and Krishna, Arjuna, Mahavir. It's a time of a breakthrough. So that's part of it, and just we have to just get to the essence. And it's not about a lot of debating. There have been many, many people who have passed through Alandi in the 35 years we've been here. And often you'll meet that person who's read all the books. They've read all the books. They know so much because they've read all the books. They've read so many books, nothing can surprise them. Nothing can penetrate. It's not about how many things we've read. It's not about how much stuff we know. It's not about that. If you can meditate on one verse, as we saw last time, Aham Brahmasmi, that's all you need. Tattvamasi, that's all you need. Books are tremendously valuable, tremendously important. We don't want to lose the books or the ability to read and study the books. We want to preserve the books in the cloud atlas. At the end, in the final degeneration, there are the people that are keeping the books, but nobody can remember how to read the books. They can't even understand all the big words that are in the books. And the termites are reading the books, and the whole of human knowledge is getting lost because the internet's long gone, by the way, long, long gone. So, not to say the books are not important, but don't be that person that comes here with all the book knowledge and quotes everything in this like I know it all kind of way. That's Gargya. Be that person who wants to get to the essence, who takes what is given and practices it by meditating, like Ajātaśatru says. He meditates every day on everything. That it's through the meditation that the knowledge becomes real. We have the components of the contemplative life, the manual labor, going out and digging the garden, very, very important. The Lectio Divina, the spiritual reading, absolutely necessary because that's where the knowledge, the repository of the knowledge is, and the meditation, the prayer, as it's described there, the going from the reading to the meditation, back to the reading, that is how things are going to come to life.
Thank you for tuning in to Ayurveda and Spirituality with Alakananda Ma. We hope today's exploration has ignited a spark of curiosity and insight within you. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and share it with a friend. For more enlightening discussions and practical wisdom on Ayurveda and spirituality, subscribe and join our Facebook group, Alundi Ayurveda. To allow us to continue sharing valuable content, consider donating to Alundi Ashram. The links will be in the show notes. Until next time, may you walk the path of Ayurveda with grace and embrace the light of spiritual wisdom in your journey.
Trayambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushtivadano